We are back. We are back. We are back. We are back with Vital Wellness with Danielle. I know that intro was really goofy and a lot different than the last one, but you know, I was watching that last video and you guys, my mom had asked me if I was nervous and I was like, no, I ain't nervous. And then when I went back and watched that video, I was like, yeah, we nervous. It's been a minute since I have been on camera, been on social media, so I'm a little rusty. But give me a minute to get back in the groove, give me a minute to like build my confidence back up on the camera. So today on Vital Wellness, we are going to be talking about my personal story and struggles, just everything that led me here with you today. So yeah, this video is gonna be pretty raw, pretty real, pretty vulnerable. Like there's a lot that goes into this. So let's start off. Back in 2018, I got out of a toxic relationship and I began to work on myself. So started going to the gym, started with lifting weights. I switched up my diet from eating processed foods, a lot of fast foods, to whole and nutritious foods. And when I started doing that, I noticed that I had a lot of digestive issues. So like literally everything that was supposed to be healthy was not agreeing with me. Like my stomach was hurting, and I mean like in physical pain. I bloated. Like I swear, I looked like I was so bloated back then when I ate certain foods that I looked like I do now when I'm pregnant. And I would be extremely full after just eating like a couple bites of certain things. I had like the worst gas. Like I know that is TMI, but you know, this is part of it. It's being raw and real. Like certain foods gave me the worst gas, and I'm just like, what is going on? So I went to the doctor and I'm just like, hey, like I'm switching up my life and trying to be healthy, but like I'm dealing with all these problems. Like what's going on? And so he ran a couple tests and he was just like, you're fine, like you're healthy. And I'm just like, no, like something's wrong. So I just started taking note of like the foods that made me gassy, made me bloated, or just gave me like physical pain in my stomach. And that left me with very slim amounts of foods to eat. Like I'm talking, there was like, I could eat like potatoes and carrots as far as like vegetables go, and like those still gave me gas. I'm like, I have to eat something. I would eat a salad and that stuff wasn't really sitting right with me either. Red meats, grains, like whole grain foods, whole grain breads, the stuff that's supposed to be great for you, like literally all that was like hurting my stomach. So like I wasn't eating a whole lot at all. And like eating just became very, very miserable. So like I went back to the doctor quite a few times. It was like, listen, something's wrong. Like my nose is running when I eat certain foods. My throat keeps getting like clogged up with mucus. I keep having to clear my throat. Like my eyes will be watering. Like I was having like legit allergy symptoms to foods. And he was just like, I mean, you have a good like an allergy, but he's just like, I don't have nothing for you. Like you're healthy. And I'm just like, so finally, I found a doctor that scheduled me for it's called an upper GI, which is basically where they stick a camera down your throat to see what's going on. So like they told me the night before, like don't eat for 12 hours. So I didn't. And when I went in the next day, they stuck the camera down my throat and they said that they still saw food in my stomach. And they're like, your stomach and your body is clearly not like digesting at a proper rate. But they're just like, the only thing that we can really tell you to do is just switch up your diet. So I'm just like, okay. I'm just like, well, if I just switch up my diet, I'm still left with nothing. So I'm just like, I'm going to just take this into my own hands. So that's when I started looking up like natural remedies and supplements for gut health. because clearly my gut lining, my digestive system, like, it wasn't well. So I started learning about supplements and herbs that helped heal your gut lining, and implementing those into like my daily diet helped my gut a whole lot. Now there still are like quite a bit of foods that I can't eat, mainly dairy, grains, so like, and I mean like any grains, like, and I've never been like diagnosed with like celiac disease or anything like that, but I do know that when I eliminate grains from my diet, then I can pretty much eat anything else. So grains, dairy, and red meat, foods with skin on them, so like smoked sausages that have like the casings on them, my stomach doesn't want to digest those either. So after like going deep into, you know, the natural healing for my gut, I was like, okay, I just want to be like natural all around. So I began learning about how birth control can really like it can play a huge role in ruining your gut. My voice is a little scruffy, y'all. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so like birth control can like put a strain on your gut. It can keep you from absorbing all your nutrients in your foods, and honestly, like, it can make you feel crazy. Like, any girl that has been on birth control, more than likely you experience like an erratic amount of hormones. And or not just hormones, but like mood swings. So like, guys, when you guys sit here and say that we're crazy, this is why. It's because it's the hormones. But no, so I was just like, in 2020, I was like, all right, that's it. Like, I'm coming off birth control. Came off birth control, and my period went missing for a year. And then I also started developing like hormonal acne, and I'll probably post pictures of that later. But like, my chin would break out. I would get pimples right here, all up and down on my cheeks, right here on my chest and my back, and I'm just like, what is going on? And I learned later on that like the stuff in my birth control was like ultimately keeping all that clear. But whenever you come off birth control, like, your body is trying to come back into balance and like learn itself. Being on birth control, it's like, it's giving you fake hormones. Like, it's not your real body, your real hormones. So like, when you come off of that, like, it's trying to like come back to normal and rebalance itself, and my body was not having it. So like, also, since I was never taught about like what types of foods can spike your blood sugar or affect your hormones in your skin and stuff like that, I was, you know, when I was eating breads and dairy and stuff like that, my face was breaking out, and ultimately that's what was causing it, was the like white breads, white pasta, like pastries, stuff like that, and cheese, dairy, milk, anything with that in it will literally like break my face out. So whenever my period went like missing for a year, I was just like, okay, because I was looking up like, how long does this normally take, and the internet was saying like 6 to 8 months. So I was like, okay. So I gave it a year, and went to the doctor, and I'm just like, you know, my period hasn't came back since I've came off birth control. And he's like, oh, it'll be alright, just give it a little bit. And I'm just like, something's not up. Like, no, that's not right. So I went and found a new doctor, a new gynecologist, and thankfully I did, because when I went to this new gynecologist to talk about my irregular periods, I learned that I have 2 uteruses. Yes, I said that. I have 2 uteruses. I have 2 uteruses. I have 2 cervixes, and I have a septum in my vagina. So the only time I have heard of this was on Grey's Anatomy, and George was talking to this patient. He was like, "Oh my gosh, you're the woman with the thing," and everybody's like, "What thing?" She's like, "I have 2 uteruses." So basically, it's not like I have 2 full-sized uteruses. I have the same size uterus as everybody else, and but they were split in half. So like, I have half a uterus on one side, half a uterus on another side, and they just come down, and I have 2 cervixes and then a septum, piece of tissue that like splits it all in half. So like a septum like you have in your nose, I have that in my vagina. And that made everything make sense, because tampons did not work for me. They were hard to stick in. They always wanted to come out. It didn't matter if I put them in or not. I was always bleeding through, and I'm just like, am I just doing this wrong? Like, I thought I just had a really heavy flow. No, it's just because I was sticking the tampon in one cervix and the other one was bleeding. So it didn't matter. So yeah, that really, like, was a mind-blown thing for me to learn that I had all that. And like, thankfully I learned all that before I got pregnant, because having 2 uteruses and cervixes and having a septum, like, it puts me at, like, I'm a high risk patient for pregnancy. Like, they're known to have miscarriages, or just like complications throughout, like going into labor, because like ultimately I have like a piece of tissue blocking the exit route. Or also like some, if you're not careful, like some cervixes can shorten, or your uterus might not have enough room to expand and grow for your baby. So luckily I knew all of this before I got pregnant. But backtrack to my other doctor, telling me that, like, you're healthy, you're fine, like, you look great, just give it a minute and your period will come back. And then when I went to this new doctor, the only thing that she really wanted to supply me with was like, get back on birth control. Like, it's really the only thing that she had for me. And I'm just like, I'm not getting back on birth control. Like, I know how awful it is for your body. So absolutely not. And the one time that I tried to get back on birth control, I took 1 pill and completely noticed the difference in my brain. Like, I literally could feel it in my forehead, my brain, everything. Like, I immediately felt irritable. I did not feel well. I had brain fog. Like, I was just like, oh, heck no, we are not doing this. So I was like, okay, so you're not going to help me either. So I was like, let's go deep into the natural healing with this too. So like, I just started looking up foods that were good for your hormones. I started looking into things about hormonal acne and what types of foods will cause that. So I, got away from those. And then I went into supplements, like natural supplements that help you with your hormones, help you rebalance your hormones. And I came across this book. It is called Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighten. Basically, this whole entire book teaches you about what, birth control ultimately can do to your body and your nutrients and your brain, your mind, and all that. She has a whole lot of stuff in here that can explain to you, like, if you're like high in estrogen, or if you don't have enough estrogen, or your progesterone, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but like, she'll tell you like what types of herbs or foods or supplements that you need to start implementing into your life and your diet to help you rebalance your hormones. Like, it's not something that you will need to be on for the rest of your life. It's just like to help your body like come back to its own. And there are, diet wise, like, there are things that you should continue to keep in your body to keep your reproductive system healthy and your menstrual cycles healthy. So when I did this, then my periods started coming back. I started having regular periods again. And then once my periods started coming back, I'd say they were regular for about 3 months. And then boom, I got pregnant. So that's pretty much that on when it comes to like digestive health and hormonal health. So let's get to the really juicy and personal stuff. Let me get a little water for this one. So when you start doing all this, like taking note of what foods make you feel your best and what foods are great for your body, you really start becoming more in tune with yourself, and you start becoming more aware of your thought processing, how environments make you feel, how people make you feel. And I started becoming really aware of like the fact that how people spoke to me, what they said to me, how they treated me, it had a big effect on my emotional well-being. It had a big effect on how I felt about myself, what I did. It would like, somebody could say something to me and I would think about it for the rest of the day and it would ruin my whole entire day. Like, and I didn't realize that. So like this had taught me that I had a lot of insecurities. I realized that I let everyone else like control my emotional well-being and how I felt about myself, and that's just not what you should do. Like back when I started working out in 2018, obviously when you start working out, like, you start to lose weight and you're starting to like get your groove, trying to figure out what routines work for you. And I obviously lost a lot of weight, and I had a lot of men that I worked with make comments about how I was too skinny, how I didn't have the butt that I used to before, how I looked a lot better because I was thicker and had more meat on my bones and stuff like that. And that stuff really hurt my feelings, because I'm just like, I'm still me though. Like, I feel like I'm going to get emotional talking about this, but I'm just like, I'm still me. Like, what my body looks like doesn't define my worthiness. This is what I'm sitting here thinking. But even though I thought that and I knew that, I still let it affect me. It affected how I felt about myself. It affected how, it just, I don't know how to explain it, but like when they said those things to me, like for the beginning when people started saying stuff like that, I literally, like, I stopped going to the gym, or I would go less so I didn't lose as less weight. All to please some men who weren't for me. And I sit here and think about it now. I'm just like, girl, I can't believe you did that. But I understand why now, because like I had insecurities that I really needed to heal. I would always make sure I was before I left the house to go anywhere. I made sure I was perfect from head to toe. So nobody can make a comment about me that would ultimately hurt my feelings and be like, make me feel down about myself. Because I would be like, oh my God, like I look bad, or I don't look good, or ultimately thinking like I'm not worthy. Like my worth is based off my looks. And that caused a lot of stress on my body and my mind. Like, I was literally stressing and having anxiety before I went to work every single day because I was trying to make sure that I was perfect all the time. And so that led me to really starting to look more into about anxiety, and then which also led me into looking up things about depression. So apparently, like, I've dealt with this stuff my entire life, and I had no idea. Like, I knew when I was in my relationship, the relationship that I ended in 2018, I was in it for 5 years. And there was lots of times where I had, like, zero motivation to do anything. Like, all I wanted to do was sleep. I always felt tired. I just had no oomph in me to do absolutely anything. Like, I would get real ornery. When you are around certain people that trigger you or that are not really good for you, like, your anxiety levels will go up. You will experience depression more often. So, around all that time when I'm learning more about that is during 2020. And we all experienced 2020, so we know what that was like. But so in 2020, my ex that I had for 5 years was murdered. And so we went through a whole process of like trying to get justice for his murder. And me and his family and his friends, like we bonded together. Like, we bonded together a lot. We talked a lot. We laughed a lot. I cried a lot. I did a real number on my own brain because I was repetitively thinking about this stuff over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where like I was getting headaches. And I knew that like I was depressed, because like once I learned a little bit about the depression and stuff like that, and I started paying attention to like my symptoms, like I always knew when I was about to go into a depression, because like I would start sleeping in more, or I would start needing more naps, and or I was like slacking on my meal prepping, I was slacking on like my cleaning my house and stuff like that, or just like my usual stuff. I was isolating myself, like I wasn't trying to go around nobody. And I became more aware of that, and thankfully I did. So I was like, all right, it's time to, you know, get moving and grooving. It's time to, even though like it was so hard, I knew it was time to, like, I gotta get back in the gym, because I didn't go to the gym for a while. So like I knew like I have to start doing things that make me feel better mentally. And I knew that being out in nature made my mind feel great, which nature is literally God sent for people who deal with depression. Like our bodies were literally built to be like outdoors. And so just how our world has grown a whole lot, like we're mainly indoors out a lot, so you have to be very conscious about making sure that you get outside and that you get grounded. So where was I going with that? See, this is why I need to write notes, but I just need y'all to bear with me. I started going back in the gym, and I started, feeling a lot better, but I did notice that, like, my thoughts really weren't good. I focused on, like, a lot of negative stuff. I obsessed over things. I had ruminating thoughts, which is like when you think about things over and over and over and over again, because ultimately your brain is trying to solve a problem. But like you can't solve it. You just kind of like whatever it is, you just gotta let it go and let it be. Sorry, I'm trying to look for this book. I'm probably going to get off subject or off track a little bit, just because, like, there's so much that I want to share with you guys. So, when I started learning about, depression and anxiety, I also learned that, like, stressful situations and stressing yourself out a lot can have a real, like, number on your mind, your body, but also your digestive system. So, if you stress a lot, it can literally cause the same effect on your digestive system and your gut lining as if you had like some type of abdominal surgery. So that kind of made me understand a little bit more of why I also had digestive issues, because I'm pretty sure I had like leaky gut. So like the things that were going in your intestines were like leaking out, and you weren't absorbing nutrients properly, and it would explain why certain things gave me gas. So yeah, that's when I started to learn about meditation, affirmations, breath work. But the thing about it is, when I first started learning about this stuff, I took it seriously, but I didn't. I wasn't implementing them in my life as frequently as I do now, because it works out the same way as like diet and exercise. Like you can't just like eat good, and then lose weight and be like, okay, I'm good, and then just stop doing it. Like, it doesn't work like that. The same thing with exercise. Like, you have to continually exercise to see the results. So like, I did meditation for a little bit, and I did like some journaling and some positive self-talk or whatever for a little bit, but I didn't do it often. So like, I was never getting the full effects. I got the full effects for a little bit, and then it just snapped. I went right back to my old habits. And then I met someone. I met someone who had a lot of trauma in their life, and I've heard of trauma, but I never really knew like much of what it was. They grew up in like an environment where you had to be like very, aware of your surroundings. They grew up a lot, I think, around like drugs and violence and abuse. And so I've always been big into learning what makes people the way that they are. Like, literally almost my whole entire life, I've always wanted to understand people and like what makes people act a certain way, talk a certain way, be a certain way. So I bought this book called What Happened to You by Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. Basically, it's like a whole conversation and interview between both of them, but it talks about trauma. It talks about how the type of childhood that you had or the environments that you grew up ultimately shape your reality, and they shape who you are. It shapes how you react to things, how you trust people, the type of people that you're attracted to, the type of people that you attract. It also shapes how you talk to yourself, how you feel about yourself. Yeah, so like, and when people hear the word trauma, I think they only think about like the violence, like being shot, being abused. But trauma, like, there's big T and little t. Like, look it up. Big trauma and little trauma. But it's all trauma. It all literally affects you. So say if as a child you didn't really get, a lot of physical affection and love from your parents, that's gonna affect how you love others. Like, I love my parents to death, and like, I don't blame them for nothing, because like, they loved us based off how their parents loved us. They treated us and disciplined us based off how their parents did that. It's just like, it's a cycle effect. So my parents weren't super like lovey-dovey. So physical affection, unless you were my partner, like, unless we got together, like, physical affection like made me uncomfortable. Like, when my friends hugged me, I was just like, oh, get off of me. But like, if I had a boyfriend, now it had to be a particular type. And that's another thing that comes with like childhood, like what type of parents that you have, you're drawn to that same type, that same vibe, that same energy. So like, I haven't had many boyfriends in my life. And people would always ask me why. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, you literally have to make me feel very comfortable. Like, we have to have this certain click for me to even want to like even go that route with you. And like, ultimately it was like the same type of people who were like emotionally unavailable, and I didn't realize that. But like, once I got into the relationship, I was super like loving and obsessive. Like, I always wanted a hug, I always wanted kisses, and just like wanted to be up their butt. And like, when we would text, and I wouldn't get like text back, I would start like freaking out, like, oh my god, is something wrong? And I'm not sure yet if all this stemmed from childhood, or if a lot of this probably stemmed from the relationship that I had for 5 years. I was cheated on a lot. So like, I became very attuned to, I'm still very aware of like, if your voice changes, if your body language is different, If something about you, or like your usual daily tasks or routines are different, like I'm very aware of that. So whenever somebody's voice would be a little bit off or their facial expressions were a little bit off, I'm sitting here like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? What have I done? Like, and I'm taking it all very personal. And that also stems from, childhood. Like, so say if your mom or dad or a teacher or a friend or anybody has said anything to you that ultimately hurt your feelings back then, that stuff is still like within you when you get older and you become an adult and you learn to take everything personally. And that's what I did. I took everything personally. And then once I started realizing like, oh, this is like an old childhood wound. I feel like this because of that. But that's not the situation anymore. I don't know if what I'm saying right now is making a whole lot of sense. But yeah. So definitely like look into this, what happened to you, or just like look into trauma or a little bit about it, and it could help you learn a lot of stuff about yourself. It could help you learn why like certain things bother you. Now, learning about all that is great, but you also have to start healing yourself. That's why like the affirmations and meditations and all that stuff is very important, because like I include affirmations in my morning routine every single morning. So like whatever I'm like struggling with, or whatever, however I want to feel, if I just want to feel positive energy, like I'll find a positive energy affirmation set on YouTube and I will recite them over and over while I'm doing my makeup. Or like if I'm feeling like low on my confidence, I'll do the same thing. I feel like there was something else I was going to mention about this. Oh, meditation. So like after I had met this person that kind of made me want to read about this book, I don't know if I mentioned it or not. When I read this book, like I was trying to learn them and I learned all about me. But they had also like told me that they practiced a lot of meditations. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna take this more seriously now. So I started doing meditation every single morning, and meditation ultimately, like, it allows your mind to slow down, because my mind was constantly going like this at all freaking times. Like it was overwhelming. It was very stressful. Like it's the Energizer Bunny. So like learning to meditate can ultimately slow that down, and you're able to think better. You're able to think more clearly. You'll have less brain fog, and like ultimately I was less stressed. Like I felt a lot better. Like my adrenaline was like, calm down. And like it helps your digestive system, it helps your heart, it helps your overall body function properly. And something that I do also want to like include is caffeine. I had to come off of caffeine because now I will drink some from time to time, and usually if I am just like dog tired, or like I need a little stimulation in my bowels. But that's usually about it, because like caffeine, excess amounts of caffeine, ultimately they get your cortisol going, your adrenals going, and it also lowers your endorphins. So like your happy hormones and all that, if you drink too much of that, like you're not gonna feel great mentally or physically. And I'm not saying everybody just cut caffeine out, but like if you're an excess caffeine drinker, and most of you probably have noticed that like you drink caffeine or multiple things of caffeine every single day and you're still tired, it's because you're overexerting your body. Your body is just like, no, this is too much, we can't do this no more. So like I had to cut it out, and when I did, I would say like the first week or 2 weeks, it's literally withdrawals. Like I had a headache for like a week or two, and but I knew like every time I tried to like add it back in, my brain was like, nope, like let's cut this out right now. So I did do that. What else? I feel like there's more to share with you guys. That may be about it. I'm sure there's going to be more that I, think of and come up with. But that's pretty much the gist of everything. Like, I just, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances. I had low self-esteem. And ultimately, all of this, it shapes your whole entire life. And, learning all of this has, it really inspired me to, want to help other people. And because I feel like everyone just deserves to feel their best. And I know not everyone has that access to this type of information. And, I was fortunate enough, I was single and kidless. So I had plenty of time to, dive deep into this stuff. But this is something that has always been, a thing of mine. I remember, at a young age, I knew I wanted to be, I said I wanted to be a psychologist. Because I was always really interested in the mind and what made people, the way that they are. So, everything that I went through in my life, it has really led me to exactly where I'm supposed to be. And, when was it? I think it was 2022 or 2021? 2022. No, scratch that. 2021. I swear I remember planting this seed. Somebody had asked me, they're just like, what are your dreams and goals? And back then I used to kind of think dreams and goals were just dreams and goals. I looked at it just as something that we thought about, but we never really put work into to actually do. And I was just I would really like to have, back when I was just into fitness, I was I think I want to be a fitness coach, have my own gym, and I was I want to have some type of supplement store, health food store. And here I am now, going to be a health coach. I did try to do the fitness training, but it wasn't really speaking to me like I wanted it to. So I started Googling hard, natural healing, health coaching and stuff like that, and I came across this school called IIN, which is where I went to school. It's the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and basically it focuses on all aspects of health and healing your health through natural processes, through life, through the world, through foods, through herbs, through practices. And it's changing my life. This whole journey has helped me believe in myself. I used to really not believe in myself at all. Back then, I used to thought, I'm staying at this factory for the rest of my life. It's a good paying job. I'm good. I'm not going anywhere else. And, at one point, when I'm sitting here talking about, low self-esteem, at one point, I was just once I started realizing that I stressed really easily and that I had trauma that needed to be healed, I'm just no, I'm not having kids. I don't need to be a mom. I don't want to ruin my child. And that was a poor way of thinking. Do not limit yourself. Yes, your stories, what has happened to you, and it's real. It's very real. But don't let that limit your thinking. Don't let that limit you from being the best you that you can be. Like I said, I didn't want to put trauma on my child. I didn't want to stress my own kid out. I didn't want my kid to ever feel insecure that I don't love them or ruin them. And then I started realizing I needed to heal the relationship with myself. And that's really what I did. And once I started becoming more, because I was also, I don't know if you guys know anything about masculine and feminine energy, but I was very much in my masculine energy. I wanted to control everything. I didn't like being lovey-dovey. I didn't like being in tune with my feminine side or my nurturing side. I felt asking for help made me feel weak. Or showing people my like feminine and nurturing side, like I felt weak. Like it's just crazy. But like, if any of this resonates with you, but seriously, like, look into it, because like I had to heal the relationship with myself. And once I did that, I started realizing like, oh, I do want a family. I do want to be a mother. I want to be a wife. Like, I am capable of all these things. But you also have to like, you have to implement like these types of practices in your life every single day, like reminding yourself to think highly of yourself, to speak life into yourself. Let yourself know that you are capable of anything. Like, it still blows my mind now to say, like, I'm just now. So my phone got a little hot. So I had to like let it cool down. I think where I left off was I was saying that, you know, it still feels unreal to me to sit here and talk about how like I have a business now, and I'm a health coach, and I'm an entrepreneur, and like all these dreams that I have now that I want to do, like I finally, like, I believe in myself. See, since I had to cut this off, I forgot where I was going with this. Sorry, y'all. I'm sure there's probably a lot of like my life story and where I'm at today, like I've probably left out, but it'll come up in another video. But what I do want to say is like what really like has drawn me to like especially help women and mothers is because like I know we have not all had this opportunity to like learn and heal and dive deep into like trauma and insecurities, and knowing what foods and exercises and all that helps shape our reality and shapes who we are. And like I'm very fortunate that I've been able to become this person before I've had my kid. Like, I'm so grateful that my daughter gets this version of me and not the old version of me. Even though I love the old version of me, I feel and empathize with the old version of me. But like, I'm so fortunate that my daughter gets this person, and that I'm able to like help her navigate life and ultimately like give her the best life that I can. What else? I think that's gonna be it for today. There is a little bit that I want to add in, but I think that's just gonna be for another episode. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope that it resonates with some of you, that it touches some of you. Maybe some of you have been like, oh, I've felt like this before, or like I don't know, but I hope that it resonates with you in somehow. I hope it touches you in somehow, and I hope that it like helps you understand, like, I know what it feels like to struggle. I know what it feels like to you know, not want to get out of bed sometimes. I know what it feels like to like not feel like, you know, that you're worthy of certain things, or not feel that great about yourself. Like, trust me, I understand. I have been there. Like, I've really been there. So if this story resonates with you and you want to share something, drop a comment below, or you know, you can send me an email. We can talk, we can chat. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I know I'm kind of going in circles right now just because like shutting this whole camera off made me like lose my train of thought. But seriously, for all of you who have watched this, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for showing up. Just keep following, keep listening. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna keep telling more stories that I forgot to put in this one, but like this one was just ultimately to show you like this is how my journey started, and this is how I got here. This is things that I struggled with, still struggle with, and just the stuff that I share is really just like how I keep myself sane, how I keep myself healthy, and I just want to remind you guys to seriously like love yourselves, be kind to yourselves, give yourselves grace. Like, we're not perfect. Like, imperfect is the real, okay? And we're all really just doing our best. We really are. So if you're even here watching this video right now, good for you, because like you're putting something in your life that, you know, you're opening your mind up to something different. You're opening your mind up to like, my life doesn't have to be, you know, my life doesn't have to be this. I don't have to settle for less. I don't have to be like mean to myself. I don't have to talk down on myself. Like, I can uplift myself. I can feel better. I can want better for my life, and I can meet my dreams and my goals, you know? So yeah, like I said, keep following you guys. Also, I have an Instagram page now. It's more gonna be just like for marketing, or like so I can get like my name out. I really like YouTube a lot better. Cutting social media out was like big for me, and that will be another story for another day. But so this will be like my main focus is YouTube, talking and like giving my daily routines, like doing a little vlog series type thing. I'll post a little bit here and there on social media just to like keep in contact with other people. But yeah, thank you guys for showing up. And next week, I'm not sure what I'm going to start with next week, but next month I am going to start giving you guys like monthly challenges to do to help you start growing. Like, help you start growing as a person. I'm going to come for your mind. I'm going to come for your plate. I'm going to come for your music, what you watch on TV, how you talk to yourself. Like, I'm coming for it all, but it's ultimately to, like, help you guys, like, uplift yourselves and feel your best. So, again, thank you guys for coming. I love y'all.